Yeah.
We were struggling with alignment.
Okay. Thank you. Basically, I'm going to talk a few things that I'm interested in right now. So, as Lucius said, I'm affiliated with Sony CSL. Actually, Luke was head of the Sony CSL Paris Club. And I'm also doing this research laboratory with Takashi Higami, my sidekick. Well, actually, I'm his sidekick anyway. So I think there's a feeling that we humans are kind of superseded by AI. And so it's all about computation, isn't it? So, what is the computational significance of consciousness, if any? And actually, when I got my PhD, this book was really huge. Roger Penrose made a really great distinction between the computable and non-computable processes. This is classic, right? I mean, so he made reference to Gödel's incompleteness theorem. This is very controversial. And with the advent of, artificial intelligence systems, I think people don't actually think of these things anymore. One of the problems with Gödel's theorem is that it's not tangible. So it's great that we have very tangible examples like good time sequences, and there's this good time theorem. Maybe if you're interested, you can look it up. So this is a case where humans can have understanding of this theorem, but there's no formal way to prove it. So, this is kind of elephant in the room still. We still don't know if AIs are capable of everything and whether we humans are capable of what Penrose called non-computable processes because we have consciousness, right? Now, there are lots of discussions and R&D efforts focused on artificial general intelligence. And in that discussion, there are many tasks proposed for the qualification of AGI or ASI. And the question is, does LLM qualify as AGI? And does LLM possess consciousness? And one of the things that people have looked at is this kind of test, Wheelgraph schema challenge. This is interesting because these questions can be answered locally. For example, if you ask what Takashi Kigami is, there are tons of information out there. So if LLM like ChatGPT can answer questions about Takashi Kigami, that's not that impressive, right? But these questions can be answered locally, so unless AIs have a genuine understanding of language, they cannot answer this. Also, there's this question of how LLM can treat anchored knowledge structure. For example, in this multi-hole problem, if a human subject knew as a fact that the car was behind door 2, of course the answer will be different. But some people argue that LLMs cannot handle these situations. So, there are many attempts to make the function of LLMs robust. For example, RAG. Everybody knows about RAG, so I don't repeat. But the question is, if LLMs are conscious or not. And I, for one, don't think they are conscious, right? I mean, so I think what LLMs are capable of demonstration of the fact they are capable of doing things unconsciously. So, also there's this ongoing debate about quantum computing, and some people say that it's not really tangible, it's not realizable, but also there are many impressive advancements, and of course, theoretically, there are many interesting works on quantum algorithms. And there's this site, I love this site, this is called Quantum Algorithm Zoo, and so they kind of put all these known algorithms of quantum computing. And in 2019, Google researchers claim that they have reached quantum supremacy. And now this is an interesting concept. Quantum supremacy does not claim that they are capable of non-computable things. Everything is computable, right? Of course, there are many detailed discussions about computational complexity. But quantum supremacy is an idea that, of course, it can be computed by universal Turing machines, but within the constraints of practical physical resources, quantum computers are capable of doing things that cannot be done by classical computers. That is the idea of quantum supremacy. So last year I proposed a concept called conscious supremacy. So I'm not claiming here that consciousness is capable of doing non-computable things like Roger Penrose did. I'm just saying that, with consciousness, probably we can conduct computation that cannot be done otherwise in terms of any meaningful biological time. In principle, although they could be done. So this is a paper. If you're interested, you can read it. But of course, this is just a hypothesis, and I need to work it out. But to be honest, I'm so fed up with conventional theories of consciousness. I think they are just rubbish. I mean, nobody is really, from my point of view, we are all making rubbish about consciousness studies. So this approach, conscious supremacy, is my take at making something useful, making some useful arguments. Otherwise we are really stuck. So, of course, these are possible candidates of conscious supremacy domains. And of course, this is not a hard argument. I mean, this is something that is based on educated guess. But I do believe that consciousness studies have a really, really serious problem. I mean, compared to what people are doing in artificial intelligence, hey, consciousness studies, that's nothing. That's nothing. So this is my own attempt to do something useful. Yoshizawa is sitting there, and together with him, I have been doing some studies on the metacognitive abilities of LLMs. And LLMs hallucinate, right? And so even if they are answering wrongly, they do not know that they are answering wrongly. So we are working on that. So many people say that metacognition is actually a hallmark of consciousness, right? Actually, consciousness is metacognition. So probably by studying these things, we can work out how LLMs qualify as conscious systems or not. And also, I have been studying the so-called aha experience, the one-shot learning process. It's a quite interesting interface between unconscious and conscious processes. Luke Shields was there when we had a really wonderful time with Francisco Varela in Paris, and Francis Varela, of course, did a wonderful job, wonderful work on one-shot learning, aha experience. So emotions associated with these things might actually have a clue about the interface between consciousness and unconscious processing. So this is my take at consciousness studies, conscious supremacy. So I hope to make some computationally tangible progress based on this thing. Now, in terms of AI alignment, I think, from my point of view, all AIs are unconscious. So the currently developed artificial systems are demonstration of the fact that these things can be done unconsciously. So from my point of view, AI alignment is an alignment between artificial intelligence systems, which are unconscious, and human brains, which are conscious. So from this perspective, it is very important to pin down what conscious supremacy actually is. because it's a beautiful division of labor between AI and human brain. Also, this is very speculative. In quantum computing, there's this concept of quantum error correction, and it is a very important aspect of quantum computing. Now, this is very speculative. Maybe this is another garbage, but maybe there's something we can call conscious error correction, CEC, because this is an old conference paper that I wrote with my colleague Yoshita Mori. Because let's face it, the neural network is so full of noise. It's messy, right? But Korea, whether you describe it with IIT or not, have these platonic properties. So there should be some way to kind of interpret the discrete noisy patterns into qualia, which are platonic. So there might be actually a process called, which I tentatively call conscious error correction, but this is also very speculative. Now, Ray Kurzweil have been arguing about singularity, and now he is saying singularity is near. So it's everything is exponential. My PhD is actually in, my thesis was called Mathematical Theory of Massive Contraction. So I actually came from biophysics originally. So, the singularity idea is very great in terms of digital computation, but once you go into the messy field of molecular biology, you cannot have a scaling law like that. For example, because of the low Reynolds number, everything is full of noise, and so I think that exponential scaling argument cannot be extended to cellular mechanisms, which is something that probably Ray Kurzweil is missing. Anyway, about this controversial idea of singularity, of course, it is due to Isaac Good, and Isaac Good proposed in this paper that self-improving intelligence would lead to a process called intelligence exposure, and people are crazy about AGI and SI, and how do we go from here? We have been implementing reinforcement learning from human feedback, but once the difference between us are quite negligible compared to what AI is achieving right now, right? So once AI goes out of the range of human intelligence, we cannot use our LHF anymore. So people have been talking about reinforcement learning from verifiable rewards. But how can you do that? I mean, maybe you can do this with mathematical formula and so on. But in general, how can you do that? And I think these are very interesting topics that can be, associated with cognitive science and cognitive neuroscience, which have been my, field. So I am really interested in these things, and also AI safety and so on, and explainable AI and so on. So these things are really wonderful crossroads of AI and cognitive science. What does it mean that AI is able to explain things? Because we cannot explain our own motives. For example, the fact that I'm stuck with Takashi Kigami, I don't know why I'm stuck with him, right? I mean, he's a great guy. I like him. Hi, hello, Takashi. I cannot explain why I'm stuck with Takashi. And there's also this wonderful concept of Bayesian uncertainty. This is due to Werner Winch. And this is the idea that as AIs make progress, its behavior is increasingly inexplicable. This is the move 33 of AlphaGo in one of the matches, and I play Go. And it's different now, but that move at the time was totally out of the question. It is something that a professional Go player would not play. But but now people understand, and so AI is always doing things that are not understandable by us immediately. And the same goes for AlphaFold. When I was a PhD student, a colleague in my lab used to study protein structure. At the time, it took 3 to 5 years to crystallize protein, and then he applied X-ray, and then he analyzed the structure. But now, AlphaFold can guess the 3D structure of a protein in, literally in minutes. But people don't understand the process. I mean, this is a new kind of science. Because people don't understand the process of protein folding. They just know the answer. Of course, some humans behave like generative AI. So this is Ramanujan, of course, and he came up with this formula. Shiva, the goddess of India, apparently told him. So he doesn't know the process, but he knows the answer. So some humans are like that. But artificial intelligence systems are increasingly becoming like that. And there's all this wonderful concept of instrumental convergence. In the last few weeks, maybe you're aware, robotics have made a really astonishing progress. And I hear that in Beijing, they are going to hold the first ever humanoid half marathon competition in a month. So, so we don't know what these humanoids are thinking of, but we can tell from their behavior what they're up to. So, when I was doing postdoc in the University of Cambridge, I sometimes bumped into Stephen Hawking. He was making purchases in the local department store. So I didn't know what was going on in his mind, but I knew what he was up to, being a department store, being in the food section and so on. So, I said, probably explainable AI is becoming less and less tenable. I mean, it's not sustainable. But in terms of physical movements, maybe we can understand what the artificial intelligence systems are up to. So this is a crossroads, again, between cognitive science, cognitive behavioral science, and AI. So I think there was a survey by Nick Bostrom a few years ago, asking AI experts which field would likely to be contribute to artificial intelligence systems in the coming years. And top of the list was astonishingly cognitive science, which I think is still true. I mean, of course, transformers and deep learning and all these things are really great. Information geometry is also great. But in order to align AI, we do need some cognitive science input. Now, Ikigai as an AI alignment principle, this is my last topic. So my book, Ikigai, is published in 35 countries in more than 29 languages. And it has been covered by CNN and Wall Street Journal and Süddeutsche Zeitung. Ikigai is this idea that you have a purpose in life. And it's linked to health benefits. There was a famous Osaki study conducted by Tohoku University researchers, I think, and there's a statistically significant longer life expectancy with people who have Ikigai. So Ikigai has been, discussed in the context of well-being. Actually, my book is selling rather well in Germany now. And last year, my book became the #1 bestseller of the year in 2024, staying at the top position for 38 weeks. And actually, it's still #1. So it's actually cumulatively, it's at the #1 position for 47 weeks right now. This is my second book, The Way of Nagomi, and in September, my third book will come out. It's titled Think Like a Stoic. Anyway, Ikigai entered the mainstream of AI research last year by this gentleman, Yampolsky. Roman Yampolsky, he appeared on the Lex Friedman podcast, and he discussed potential risks of AI. And one of them was I risk, what he called I risk, Ikigai risk. the risk that humans might lose ikigai because of artificial intelligence, right? So this is a really interesting development because at the time I wrote the book on ikigai, I didn't expect it to be associated with AI alignment, but now it is. And so I'm working on theorizing how ikigai can be related to AI alignment. And one of the ways that I found, I think this is my original perspective, is to link it to Goodhart's law. Goodhart's law is phrased as when a measure becomes a target, it seems to be a good measure. And it is due to Charles Goodhart. He's a UK economist, and he proposed that principle. And so when artificial intelligence systems, they try to optimize some certain evaluation functions, right? But sometimes they go out of robust alignment. And Goodhart's law, I think, describes this phenomenon very well. So when AI tries to optimize something, well, first it looks great, but then it goes to another direction. One of the most important, famous example would be paperclip maximizer, popularized by Nick Bostrom. So another example is Moloch. This is an article that I wrote, AI Moloch and the race to the bottom. Moloch is this idea that by trying to optimize a certain evaluation function in a system, actually the wellness is reduced for all of us, a race to the bottom kind of thing. So I don't have time to go into details now, but I think, for example, in information geometry, I think ikigai can be discussed in the context of optimal transport in artificial intelligence. And also, there is this very important concept in developmental psychology called secure base, developed by people like Ainsworth and Bowlby. And I think ikigai can be linked to that. And also, it's related to sustainable and safe learning processes. So what I like to do with Takashi Ikigami here is to, theorize ikigai as an alignment principle to be compatible with the Goodhart's law. And also, as I'm doing research with Shun Yoshikawa there is this link between metacognition and AI. And so, all these cognitive science inputs would be something that probably, hopefully, make AI alignment robust. So, I think, as I have argued in the conscious supremacy section, I think there's a strong analogy between alignment between conscious and unconscious processes in the human brain, and alignment between human brain and AI. So, I think this is something that we can look into from here. This is, I think, a summary slide. So I'm trying to do research into ikigai as an AI alignment principle. And theoretically, probably ikigai can be formulated as something that is independent of evaluation functions in reinforcement learning, which is related to homeostasis and secure base, and serve as a necessary condition for reinforcement learning to happen efficiently and in a sustainable way. So another important question is the so-called proxy goals. So ikigai is beyond proxy goals. So I'm trying to, and also maybe we can talk about artificial ikigai. Is it possible to implement artificial ikigai in AI systems? So all these things I'm doing with Takashi, my great friend there. So anyway. So that's all for the time being. So thank you very much.
Well, it's getting a bit late, but
yeah, just
maybe there's somebody with a comment or.
Takashi, do you have any? Yeah.
Well, what the metacognition of AI, right?
Yeah.
So when I work with Android. So Android can stop, asking him, the feedback. Then it can say whether this is his hand or not. So then I will also ask every time that he tried to do something, what's the confidence level of your answer? And then there is a apparent tendency that the confidence level goes up and up. Then he comes to the final decision, right? So it seems like he has a confidence level which is the right measure. But I think if you ask without any embodiment, and then just ask him whether what you are saying is confident or not, then probably it becomes such a random measure. But once you give a task and then you give an embodiment, then I think the confidence level is pretty much correlated with what he's going to do. So I don't think AI doesn't have metacognition or something, but I think it's with embodiment he can have a metacognition.
Yeah, so I think it's a great point. So it's in cognitive science. There's this method called forced choice.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, with AI, we are effectively forcing them to answer,
Right.
no matter what the complex level is.
Yeah.
Actually, so yeah. So and of course, forced choice is actually related to embodiment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, embodiment is about constraint to the AI,
Yeah.
right? And constraint is very important for him to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah. So yeah. Great. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a very general question
Yeah.
for understanding. Do you mean that consciousness is related with language? Because it seems to me that in many ways, the time in my life where I had more meaning and more happiness, they were without words.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes to my mind the line from the Depeche Mode: words are unnecessary, they can do only harm.
Mm.
And in a way, they keep you, they confront you with a concept of life rather than with life itself. So I just wanted to understand what would you think of a wordless consciousness?
Thank you. That's a really great question, isn't it? Because I think the remarkable abilities manifested by LLM, based just on next token prediction, is a testament to the fact that actually language is not that tightly coupled with consciousness per se. I mean, when I talk, I'm doing next token prediction all the time. So when I came here, I didn't know what I was going to say, So I'm just following my context, of what I said before. So yeah, when we are really happy and when we are really conscious of ourselves, actually we tend to lose the desire to express in words. So I think, this aspect of consciousness is something that we really need to think about from here. Yeah, I think that's a really great point, actually. Thank you. Yeah. So, do you have this question, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think,
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank you.